Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on the overview of the visitor process. Before we get started, I do want to apologize. My throat still isn't quite recovered from having to reschedule this webinar from a couple of days ago, but I didn't want to push it off again. So hopefully you guys can bear with me through the next half hour or so. We're bound to get some good information out, and if you have any questions along the way, just keep in mind that this is a live webinar, so please do ask those questions. The best way to ask the questions is to type them in, and I will see them come up on the screen. A couple other housekeeping things as we're going through the material today. I will be recording this webinar. It will be made available in a couple of different places. The first place it'll be made available is on the support site. The support site is located most easily accessed by clicking on this question mark in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you over to the support site and log you in as well to get to any protected content. You'll see our list of upcoming webinars, and if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll get to chapter training and documentation. And here you will see the BNI Connect recorded member webinars. This one will be in there within a day or two, hopefully. You can also see any previous months, so if you'd like one without a scratchy voice, you can get that in November, and you'd be able to find for example, the visitor from invitation to follow-up right here. It's also all available on our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, you will see all of our videos up here as well. And now we have a ton of videos up there, not just these webinars, but other things like educational moments, short 3 to 5 minute videos, special messages from Dr. Meisner, all sorts of stuff up there on our YouTube channel. So please check that out. All right, so let's get into the visitor process here with BNI Connect. Now, this is an overview right now of the visitor process, and what you'll see here, this is actually part of a 53-page visitor manual that I've written, how visitors and BNI Connect interact. If you'd like a copy of this manual, just shoot me an email, support@bniconnect.com. Again, that's support@bniconnect.com, and I will be happy to send you a copy of the entire manual. But here on the screen is an overview of the process of inviting and following up with visitors in BNI Connect. And you'll see that there's 3 different steps of the process. There's inviting visitors, which we can do in BNI Connect through the visitor invitation email, and I'll show you how that works in just a minute. We also can now pre-register visitors before a chapter meeting, and this is a somewhat new process in BNI Connect. That's something that's only been around for about a year now, but that gives us the ability to go in and not just after they've shown up to meeting, but before the meeting, it registers them for an upcoming meeting. So it sends out emails saying, yes, you are confirmed to come to the meeting, and it will remind them 2 days before the meeting, and it will send a message to the leadership team, to the visitor host, and to the director consultant, letting them know that somebody is registered for that meeting. And then finally, the meeting happens, and then after the meeting, we can also follow up with visitors. And there's a couple of different ways we can follow up. If they were entered, we can just mark them as having attended. If they weren't pre-registered for the meeting, then we can enter them into BNI Connect, which will automatically send them a thank you for visiting email. There's also reports that list all of the visitors for the chapter, so we can go back to those reports and get information and re-invite people back at a later time if we'd like to. So all of these different things, we can use BNI Connect to basically manage the visitor process from start to finish, and that's what we're going to be reviewing today. All right, so let's take a look at this first part of it here, and that is the inviting visitors portion. So the inviting visitors. Now, we do that, again, in BNI Connect. So you have to log in to BNI Connect, and this should be your home screen that you see when you get there. We are going to have to dig a little deeper and go beyond the home screen in order to access some of these tools. So I do often hear, I never know where to find anything in BNI Connect. It's so confusing. I'm just not sure. Here's my little trick for remembering where everything is in BNI Connect. And that is up here along the menus, you'll see a couple of different things. You'll see network, operations, and reports. Those are the places that you're going to go to most often. Network is going to be your BNI network. So your connections, your groups, your testimonials, all the different really social media options and functions here in BNI Connect. The second one is operations, and the third is reports. Operations is input. If you need to interact with the system, if you need to do something, you're going to go to operations. If you want to just get data back out of BNI Connect, such as statistical reports or lists of people or something like that, then we're going to go to reports. Now, because we want to send something out, we need to go to the operations. I'm going to go to operations, chapter. And once we get here, we'll see a bunch of different options along the left-hand side. Now, we'll get back to this Manage Visitors thing in just a minute. But before that, I want to go to Create Email. And this is where we're going to find a couple of email generating options. Now, the first one on the list is Email My Chapter. By the way, that's a really handy tool if you ever need to email your chapter about something. This will give you the most current list of email addresses for all your chapter members. So you can very easily copy and paste these and put it into your own email program. But the thing I wanted to show you in here was this second option down, which is Email Visitor Invitation. Again, that's Email Visitor Invitation. Create email, Email Visitor Invitation. Now, if I click on that, what we're going to see is just a couple of different fields that we need to fill out. Now, this is very helpful. Now, let's say that you go out to a networking event or something like that, and you have somebody that you never met before, and you talk to them, and you get talking about BNI, even though this isn't a BNI networking event that you were at, and you say, hey, you know what, I'd really like for you to come and visit my BNI chapter. I'd like to introduce you to some people. They say, yeah, you know what, that would be great. Well, you need to get them all the information on where are they going to go to this meeting? What time is the meeting? Explain a little bit about BNI as well. That's what this is used for, so that you can send a very professional looking email to them without having to go and look up or make up all that information. So all we need to do is kind of fill out just a little bit here. We're going to fill out their names. Let's say the name was Joe Smith from Smithco, and their email address. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use my own email address so that you guys can see what this looks like. So it sends me the invitation. And then you put your personal message in. So the personal message is, you want to introduce yourself to the person or reintroduce yourself to the person. You want to make this, well, I guess personal, so they realize that this is coming to you. So I'm going to type in, it was great meeting you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. When I click send, it's going to take this information, put it into a backend template, and send this email right off. So I'll click send. It's now compiling that, creating the email, and sending it off. And I should have that in just a second, and I'll show you what it looks like. And here it is. So here's the email. We can see that it has a nice BNI graphic up at the top of it. It then personalizes it. It says, Dear Joe. It puts in what I typed in as that first paragraph. It was great meeting you at the networking event. I'd love to introduce you to my referral team. So it makes it a much more personal email. Then what it did is it went and it looked up my chapter information for me. So this is inviting them to the BNI Burr chapter at the Cool Breeze Cafe located at 11 Snowball Court up in the Outer Limits in Antarctica, and that we meet on Wednesday at 5:30. It then briefly explains what BNI is all about, lets them know that we're looking for somebody in their profession, and to please RSVP with you. If they hit reply, it will go back to your email, so they will be responding directly to you. So if you want to test this out, again, go to Operations, Chapter, Create Email, and then email visitor invitation. Create email visitor invitation. By the way, I know that we have at least a few director consultants that are on the call with us today. This is very helpful for director consultants as well if you're inviting to one of your chapters, especially because if you have access to multiple chapters, it will invite the person to whatever chapter is chosen down from this drop-down list. So if you have access to multiple chapters, you can use this for that purpose as well. All right, so that's the visitor invitation. Sending out a very quick email. Again, if you want to test this, send one to yourself so you can see what it looks like. A lot of people ask, well, is it recorded anywhere? Are there any reports or anything like that? And the answer to that is no. There are no reports. We're not collecting email addresses or any information about who's inviting who. It's just meant to be a simple yet professional way that you can get an invitation out there. All right, so the next part of this process is you've now met somebody, you've now sent them an invitation, and let's say that they accept. They say, yes, you know what, I really do want to come to that chapter meeting of yours. You know what, I can't make it this week, but I really, really want to come to the meeting next week. Great. Now what do? What we want to do is we want to solidify that reservation for that visitor. Now, doing this really steps up the professionalism of having a visitor come to the meeting. It's no longer just a, hey, you want to come? Yeah, I'll come. And then maybe they show up to the meeting. By registering them, it sends them a confirmation. This lets them know that they are expected to be at the meeting, not just a casual thing. They're expected to be at the meeting. People are waiting for them. It also, especially if they're saying, oh, I can't come for 2 weeks or I can't come for 3 weeks, because it also sends them a reminder 2 days before the meeting, it increases the chances that they'll actually show up to the meeting. So let's take a look at how that's done. So let's say that they have accepted your invitation. So Joe Smith here from Smith Co. said, yes, I would like to come. If I go again to Operations Chapter, under Manage Visitors, you'll see that I have a number of options here. Now, one of them is register a prospective visitor before a meeting. So this is what I would do if they respond to me, say, yes, I'd like to come to the meeting. I want to register them for an upcoming meeting. It's pretty straightforward. All we need to do is to fill out the form. So we have there the country and the region and the chapter already selected for us. Joe Smith from Smith Co. He's in legal. He's actually a paralegal. And he couldn't make it this coming week, but he wants to come on the week after, so I'll put that date in. And this is Joe Smith. I'm going to fill out the form with as much information as I have at the time. This will also make it easier for the visitor hosts later because there's less information for them to have to fill out. Phone number is mandatory. As is the email address. And once again, I'm going to put my own email address in here so we can see what the copy of the registration email looks like. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. Now, once I've submitted this, this immediately kicks off an email chain reaction. So I am going to get a thank you for registering email. And this is it right here. Hi, Joe. You're confirmed to visit the BNI Burr chapter. It lets me know what date, what time, and again, I'll get a similar email 2 days before. Another email went out to my president, my vice president, my secretary-treasurer, all of my visitor hosts, and my director consultant, letting them know that somebody is registered to visit this upcoming meeting. Now, along with this registration, potential visitors can also register themselves on the regional websites. So every chapter and every region in BNI Connect does have a website available to them. For example, the Antarctica region, their website is antarcticreferrals.com. And let's say I'm out there and I'm looking to visit a chapter. Maybe I go to find a chapter. I take a look and I can see these chapters. Okay, well, the BNI Burr chapter, they meet on Wednesdays at 5:30 in the afternoon. That sounds like a good time for me. I'm going to check them out. I can take a look at the various members. I can see that, Harvey Keitel and Ricky Martin and Alfred E. Newman are in that chapter. I think I really want to go visit. Sounds very promising. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Visit this chapter. And again, this will give me a form that I can fill out that allows me to register myself to visit that chapter for an upcoming meeting. It still starts the same email process to notify everybody, and it will still send that person a reminder 2 days before the meeting. Now, once you have people that have started to register, you can now monitor this process through one of the reports in BNI Connect. So again, to get to the reports section, I'm going to go over to the reports, and this is a chapter report. But if I scroll down a little bit, I will see a visitor registration report. And this should show me people that are registered for upcoming meetings. By default, it's going to show me the next 1 week's worth of meetings. But let's say I'd like to know who's in the pipeline for the rest of the month. I can do that. And here we can see, here's Joe Smith that I just registered a few minutes ago. And he's registered for the January 28th date. And I can even see that it was myself that invited Joe to this meeting. This is helpful information, especially if you're using this registration method for something like a visitor day or a stack day or something like that, to see which of the chapter members might be participating or have successfully invited people to visit the chapter. All right, so that's the first two parts of this process. The first two parts, again, we invited a visitor using the invitation email. And the second thing we did was to use the self-registration on the website, and we registered from the inside of BNI Connect, from the logged in portion as a member as well. The next part is that the meeting happens. Hopefully they show up to the meeting because they got their reminder to show up. And now what we need to do is to follow up with the visitors. And this is where, as a visitor host or as somebody on the leadership team, we need to record the visitors that were at the meeting. Now, the first thing we want to do as a visitor host is, again, we're going to go back to the operations menu. And under Manage Visitors, what we can do is manage registered visitors and mark attendance. Now, if I click Go on here, it will show me all of the visitors that have been registered for various meetings, both previous meetings that have passed already and future meetings. I can sort these by date or by name or whatever it is. Now, if time has gone on and the person didn't show up, it's probably a good idea every once in a while to go in and clean these out, or possibly re-invite them. For example, we had David Bould here that had registered to visit way back in August, or actually July. Maybe we want to invite them back again to a meeting because they missed it the first time. So we can always remove this person if they said, nope, you know what, don't contact me again. For those people that actually did show up to meetings, for example, we had a going to sort this by date here. We had John Doe that came to our meeting on the 10th of December. If I click Edit, as a visitor host, my job just got a lot easier because rather than having to type all the information in, most of the information is already here. Now, all I really need to do is to go ahead and click Visitor Attended. This will then give me the option whether or not I would like to add this person to the POMS report. Now, some reasons why you might not want to add them to the POMS report is if they are an ineligible visitor. For example, they already have an application pending, or they are a member in another chapter. Those, by not putting them in the POMS, that does help your conversion ratio and therefore your chapter traffic lights if you're using that tool in your particular region. You can then verify their profession and specialty if you need to add any additional information. You do need to confirm who invited them and or change that if necessary. Fill out any additional details and choose whether or not to send the visitor follow-up. Once I click Submit, this person will now be removed from our registered visitors database, and they'll now go into our chapter visitor database, which will make it much easier to follow up with people in the future or to report back on those people or convert them into a member once they submit an application. Now, if you're looking through this list and let's say that somebody showed up to the meeting that did not pre-register, that's perfectly fine as well. I would still first check this list to make sure that they're not here. And if they're not here, click on the Add Visitor button. This is, for all intents and purposes, the same exact form that you just need to fill out. And again, you can choose whether or not to add them to the POMS and whether or not to send them the follow-up email. Now, one reason not to send the follow-up email might be to, let's say that we're doing this data entry just as catch-up. Maybe it's 3 or 4 weeks have gone by and we hadn't entered our visitors. Sending out a thank you for visiting email would probably look a little bit bad 3, 4, 5 weeks later. So we might want to not send that out. And by the way, I did get my thank you for visiting email from John Doe for visiting the chapter on December 10th. Now, once you've started recording your visitors, obviously this will also update the POMS report. So the people that invited the visitors will get credit for them. But we also now have some reporting capabilities that may not have been available before if we weren't recording our visitors in BNI Connect. Essentially, we are now building a visitor database. Once we have a visitor database in the system for your chapter, that gives you the ability to go back and follow up with people into the future. Some good reasons to follow up is to just re-invite them back. Maybe they came as a visitor, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. You might want to call them up and said, hey, you visited a couple of weeks back. What did you think? Why don't you come back for another visit? Maybe they'll put in an application at that point. Another reason that you might want to do that is if you're having maybe a visitor's day or an open house. Maybe you're having an after-hours event or a holiday party even for your chapter, and you'd like to open it up and invite back any visitors that you met over the past year. You can always do that as long as you're keeping a visitor database in BNI Connect. So one of the easiest ways to go back and get that information is by going to the reports. So again, we're going to go to Reports, and I'm going to go to the Chapter Reports. And in here, you have to scroll down just a little bit, but you should see a Chapter Visitor Report. Now, again, let's say that I am, my chapter, the Burr chapter, we're having um, a winter solstice party to celebrate the sun coming back. We're going to go ahead and invite everybody to this solstice party that may have been to the chapter any time in 2014. So I'm going to go from January 1st to December 31st and search all of my visitors for the past year. And this gives me a nice list of visitors. I can then do whatever I'd like with this information. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this report has more information than we could display on the screen. So by exporting this report, you can get additional things, such as the visitor's mailing address. So I'm going to go ahead and export this. And here we have it now in Excel. And you can see that I now have the address information. So if I wanted to take this information and put it into something like, I don't know, send out cards, or if I wanted to send out an email and invite them all to an upcoming event such as that solstice party, I could go ahead and do that because I have all of this information in the system that we've been accumulating over the years. All right, and there are some additional tools that are available at the regional levels. However, we are getting pretty close to the bottom of the hour. What I would like to do is to open this up for any questions that anybody has about the visitor process here in BNI Connect. And just a reminder, again, we went through inviting visitors, registering visitors, and following up with visitors. If you would like a copy of this 53-page manual, please do feel free to send an email to support@bniconnect.com, support@bniconnect.com, and I will be happy to send this along to you. This is also being recorded. It will be made available shortly on the support site as well as up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. All right. Do we have any questions? Any questions at all about visitors or anything else in BNI Connect? I'd be happy to answer any of those questions now. So Scott says, is there a way to import the chapter's email addresses into Microsoft Outlook? So the only way I can see to really do that would be to, if you go to Operations, we get that email address list. Yeah, because it doesn't give the person's names. So you'd be able to get the email addresses in, but they wouldn't necessarily match up with the records. I do know that things like the chapter roster report are better because they have some of the additional information for the members in there. So the chapter roster report, for example, would have their phone number in it as well as their company name, but it does not have their email address. But this would at least give you that information to import from a CSV file. I guess the only other way to do that would be to probably to combine the two reports and kind of match up the email addresses, but right now there isn't a way to directly do that. So sorry about that, Scott. Suzanne, does the system accept duplicate email addresses and phone numbers in the visitor reports? And yes, they actually do accept duplicate email addresses. It does not. It doesn't prevent any duplicates when you're in the visitor database. However, there is another tool that I didn't show you. If you go to Operations Chapter, and if we go to this Create Email, there is an Email Chapter Visitors. So if you're looking to send out a visitor list, for example, and let's say that I do after January 1st, 2014 again, and before today, and I do next, This is like the chapter one, but this will actually deduplicate the email addresses for you in the visitor list. So you could use this tool as well, the email visitors tool. Does that help, Suzanne? All right. Other questions? Be happy to answer any additional questions. All right, if there's no additional questions, I would like to thank everybody for being here today. Just a reminder, this is being recorded. Please check it out. A good referral from me is if you found today's webinar helpful, please let other people know about these webinars. We do have 2 more webinars this month. One is Chapter Goals for Leadership Teams. That's going to be this coming Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And Leadership Team Tools and Reports, which will be next Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll have the whole series again in February. I'd also love it if you gave us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do webinar announcements and tips and tricks and reminders and all sorts of stuff up here as well. So I greatly appreciate a like up there. All right. So again, thank you everybody for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting, everyone.